Okay, I believe I'm on the air. Yeah. All right. So, hello everybody. Yeah. Big show today. All right. So, we're still dealing with the virus. We're still dealing with Trump. We're still dealing with circumstances at hand. And what I'd like to go over is a little bit of the process. We've been in this now for 6 months, and when we first were put into the process, we were going from a very neophyte president who has had no experience whatsoever in politics or law. The only thing he was a real estate agent. You know, so there's a big jump between that and running a country and dealing with pandemics and viruses and war and circumstances of economy and large levels and relationships to races in order to create a blend of the United States. We have a blend of all the countries here. So we really, we're in 2020. We really don't need a president who is a bigot, you know, who doesn't see it like this, who thinks that we shouldn't have had a civil war, it should have continued as it was, and rebellious flags are necessary. And circumstances like that we don't want to forget, because those are the base of our history, according to this guy. So most of the people who vote for him are bigots. Most of the people who vote for him do not like immigrants. They do not like black people. They believe that they can't be trusted. All these things, you know, the bigot mind, you know. Their relationship to women is, you know, you buy them. You don't love them. You pay for them. And then you get rid of them. And you pay for them when you get rid of them. And that's all there is to it. There's just no relationship whatsoever of any kind on a human form in this process, you know. So when we're dealing with a government, we're dealing with the United States, a structure of evolution that is very far along. We've had many, many presidents over 44, and we're moving into a relationship of a planetary healing. You know, that's really where we're at, you know. But yet we have this president. And due to the fact that we have this president, we have this situation, everybody is always in a place of assumption and expectation. You buy a house, you expect something. You live in a neighborhood, you expect something. You pay your taxes, you expect something. All these things you expect. You vote for a president, well, you're either Democratic or Republican, so therefore you expect that person to be either Democratic or Republican. Whatever you believe about that, you expect that person to represent that. You expect that when you buy a Ford, it's a Ford. Yeah, but nowadays it's not a Ford. It's from Mexico, or it's from China or Taiwan or some other unknown location, you know, and it's really not an American vehicle. We have a real... Are you doing that, Lars? You are? Okay, that's weird. Oh, you're just trying to adjust it. Okay, great, do that, yeah. It's just strange. Okay, so anyway, we have a president that's really not qualified to be the president, and it's a really difficult job. It really is. And we live in a country of people who voted for him are people of blind faith, which means he's the president of the United States. You don't talk crap about the president of the United States. You have to be loyal, whoever the president is. But if you ask those same people, how did you feel about President Obama? Well, you know, it's all kinds of negative stuff. Forget that loyalty to being president part. That's only brought up when it's your president. You know, so that's just, you know, something that's done in bigotry, yeah, and in a blind faith scenario. So these people do this, and which means that they're very blinded by the ongoing process that, okay, let's stop right there. Yeah, the ongoing process of Trump's nature, you know, is he doing the job, you know, and we have a real difficulty in knowing because he lies a lot. And he infers things that are lies. He takes us off the focus. When he gets in there and he says, we weren't prepared, you know, that previous black guy, He was just not qualified. He wasn't even American, didn't even have a birth certificate in America. He just goes on and on, anytime you talk about him. So as soon as he got into office, he fired everybody. He looked for every law, everything that this man put in during the time of the office. He wanted to wipe it away. Whether it be, Obamacare, or whether it be immigration, or whether it be anything. And one of those things was how to deal with a pandemic. It was something that administration dealt with really big. And they put a lot of time and energy into it. They actually raised the funding up into the world, the CDC and the WHO and all these different organizations, in order to prepare for a pandemic, because they had come out of major viral problems, SARS virus and others. So we're actually not an ignorant nation. We've been here before. We've had viruses. We've dealt with them. The problem is that at that time we had a government and a president, whether it be Clinton or Carter or whoever was in the office. Those people were strong of heart, and they did a lot of things of the heart, so they did their best. They really did. I don't know of hardly any president that really wasn't moved during the time of being president, that they put more effort into being the best person they could be in order to do this job. But that's not the case of Trump. He already thinks he's the best person. He thinks nobody else is qualified, and that he is the best person for the job. So he eliminated, a book that was written. Over 1,000 people he fired that were there to take care of the pandemic if it ever arose. He fired them all. He got rid of all the books out of the office, out of Washington. Got rid of them. Don't want them here. Throw them in the trash. Get rid of them. Do not bring them up. They don't exist. They never were done. And let's say that. And he did. He went on and on. He said, well, we didn't have any masks. We didn't have any PED. We didn't have anything. There was nothing prepared in hospitals. No one was prepared here of a pandemic or an epidemic or a viral, any process whatsoever. Nothing was prepared. And it wasn't true. Come to find out, he did do that. Come to find out, all of that was prepared. But this president fired all the people. And as we watch this come along, all the people who are involved in this pandemic process of trying to heal it are slowly but surely being erased or fired as we keep moving through it. Fauci was out there in front, but then Fauci, well, he's a doctor. He's a scientist. He's going to step up, for people who need to take the right responsible actions, because that's what doctors do. They're supposed to tell you these things, You're not supposed to depend upon your mayor, You're not supposed to depend on chief of police to tell you how to deal with your medical problem, It's a Hitlerian situation if the chief of police comes in and says, you got to do this, Or your boss calls you up and says, you've got to do certain things, So this process is very, very different than what we are assuming, And the difficulty is assumption. People assume, people expect. They just automatically expect a president to be a qualified president. And he's going to get on a plane, and he's going to make phone calls, and he's going to go to countries, and he's going to talk to other countries that we have relationships with that have been built up since the beginning of the presidency. It's our job. We have people who go out, who are emissary, and they represent the United States, and we create all kinds of good relationships throughout the world. The whole world is dependent on the strength and the direction of the United States. It's been that way since Washington. Europe changed their ways. Everybody changed their ways on planet Earth due to our presidents. Due to all of our Congress, due to all of our nation, due to the way of our people. And everybody wanted to move here, and that's what immigration's about. That's what this place is about. You know, there's nobody here that doesn't come from someplace else. So his whole immigration theory is nothing more than a bigot. Yeah, and it's more rationale around a dollar bill and whether or not these people pay taxes, and if they don't, how much do they cost us? There's prison time, and then there's, having to fund them for their housing and having to pay for their school. And, it's just wreaking havoc on his brain. The thoughts of these people coming into America costing us even $1 would drive him crazy. Yeah? Unless you're coming here in order to make dollars, to give dollars to the federal government and into the corporations at hand in the United States that he benefits from, that he recognizes as being the United States. That's his capitalistic world. He has no heart, none whatsoever. He is not a president of the United States. Yeah, we made a mistake. Yeah, a big mistake. Big mistake. So this. I want to show you a timeline of this guy.
I think our whole group has been spectacular.
So here are the facts. In 2014, the Obama-Biden administration put together the Global Health Security Unit within the White House National Security Council.
We have to put in place an infrastructure, not just here at home, but globally, that allows us to see it quickly, isolate it quickly, respond to it quickly.
They also assembled a 69-page pandemic response playbook. Now, in 2018, President Trump fired the Global Health Security Unit.
I'm a business person. I don't like having thousands of people around when you don't need them.
He also declined to renew CDC epidemic prevention funding, causing it to downsize in 39 countries, including China. Now, reporting from ABC suggests that intelligence officials were warning about this new disease emerging from China as early as November 2019.
Nobody would have ever thought a thing like this could have happened.
The administration has disputed that, but we know that at least as early as January 3rd, the White House National Security Council was briefed. In January, before Germany had a single case of the coronavirus, they began working on a test. January 8th, the CDC issued its first warning. On January 9th, the World Health Organization issued its first warning. And that night, President Trump held a rally.
And America's future has never, ever looked brighter.
On January 10th, the World Health Organization issued a comprehensive package of technical guidance with advice to all countries for how to detect, test, and manage potential cases. January 18th, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar tried to have an urgent phone call with the president about the crisis. The president reportedly cut him off to berate him about his efforts to ban flavored vaping products.
So this guy that he's talking on the phone is the guy that's going to help him through the virus. Yeah. And it's the absolute first step thing he has to do is be able to sit down with this man, humble himself in knowing he knows nothing. This is a horrible thing. All the countries are falling in line under their directors, under their people that research this, stand in this, live by this, know what to do about it when it begins to happen. Yeah, we have the same. We have a group of people. We're the United States. We've been doing this a long time. He behaves as though this is the first time in the United States this has ever happened, and we're the most incompetent people on the planet. Most incompetent. And it's just solely because he's the one who's in charge. He's the one making these statements. This guy gets on the phone, he berates the man for not allowing things of his personal desire to be fulfilled. Vaping, flavors in vape. If you studied any of that in flavors of vape, that's the only thing that's causing people lung problems when they're vaping, is the flavor that's added to the vape. That's why they say, let's not put the flavor in the vape, because there are thousands of kids in high school ending up in the hospital with lung damage from the flavor that's coming from the vape. Yeah? That's irritating the lungs dramatically. Yeah? And that's all he has to do is just take the time to ask, why won't you allow it? And then the guy would give them this information I just gave you. Yeah? And then he, humbly, can go, oh, well, that's right. That's the right thing to do. Good. Thank you. I'm glad you did that. Good job. He doesn't do that. Good. Thank you. I'm glad you did that. Good job. He doesn't do anything like that. Yeah? He goes, you're evil. You're mean. You should go to hell. You're fired. Somebody should fire you. You're fake. Yeah? All the way to Fossey. The guy in charge of this thing. He lies to everybody, and he tells other people to ban Fossey from the office, yeah, to negotiate relationships with the news media to put out false news, that Fossey is a very incompetent doctor, and that he made so many incompetent malpractice mistakes as a doctor that he would have killed thousands of people if the great Dr. Trump didn't oversee stupid Dr. Fossey. That was really, think about it, that's exactly what happened. He's not a doctor. And the person who he had say these things is not a doctor. Yeah? He's an administrator. No doctor's involved in the process of the coronavirus anymore. We have Pence, the vice president, who is just a, super duper fanatic religious guy. That's all he is. That's just it. He's just blocked in the brain, and he thinks that Trump is the Messiah. So whatever Trump says, he's going to go along with it. He can't not do it. As far as he knows, the closest thing he's got to God is Trump. So he's not going to go against God. Even if God comes in the form of the devil, he's not going to go against it because he has no way of proving whether or not he's dealing with the devil or is he dealing with God. It's one or the other. And he's standing back. Yeah. So check this out.
President Trump then hung up and went golfing. January 19th.
I think our whole group has been spectacular.
January 20th, this was the first confirmed case of the coronavirus in the US. It was also the first confirmed case of the coronavirus in South Korea. The response of the two countries could not be more different. Within the first 2 weeks of that case, South Korea had implemented nationwide testing. Perhaps that's why, as of the beginning of May 2020, South Korea has fewer than 250 deaths, while the United States has had over 65,000. Given the difference in population size, you would expect the US to have a death rate 6 times that of South Korea. Instead, it is over 250 times that of South Korea. On January 22nd, asked whether he was worried, President Trump said,
"No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine."
On January 23rd, China shut down all of Wuhan. The World Health Organization held an international news conference, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called for a public health emergency. President Trump did not declare it. On January 24th, President Trump tweeted, "China has been working hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well." On January 27th, Joe Biden wrote an op-ed warning that President Trump was failing to take this crisis seriously and needed to take more immediate action. On January 28th, Elizabeth Warren released her coronavirus plan. That night, President Trump held another rally. On January 29th, President Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, sent an urgent White House memo warning of the risk of the virus. Only then was a task force formed. January 30th, China locked down all of Hubei province. The World Health Organization declared a global health emergency. That night, President Trump held a rally. February 1st, Trump goes golfing. February 2nd, Only then did a partial travel restriction on China go into effect.
Well, we pretty much shut it down coming in from China.
39 countries had travel restrictions on China earlier or at the same time, and many had much more comprehensive restrictions. At least 430,000 people arrived in the U.S. from China since January 1st. This included nearly 40,000 in the 2 months after President Trump's travel restrictions. While he claims that they saved thousands of lives, Dr. Jennifer Nuzzo, an epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins, says, quote, "We have not seen any evidence that shows that the travel restrictions stopped or slowed down transmission of the virus." February 3rd, the World Health Organization released a strategic preparedness and response plan. February 5th, Secretary Azar requested $4 billion to fight the virus. This led to a shouting match in the White House. February 6th, the World Health Organization began distributing 250,000 tests around the world. The U.S. didn't want any. We'd produce our own. Around that time, the CDC produced a total of 90 tests, which turned out to be faulty. February 10th, President Trump proposed a budget that would cut CDC funding by 16%. That day, he said,
The virus. They're working hard. Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
February 15th, President Trump went golfing. February 19th, he held another rally. February 20th, he held another rally. February 23rd, Peter Navarro sounded another alarm within the White House, warning of the increasing probability of a full-blown COVID-19 pandemic. Only the next day does President Trump finally ask Congress for additional funding. But that same day, he tweeted, "The coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. Stock market starting to look very good to me." On February 26th,
You treat this like a flu because of all we've done. The risk to the American people remains very low. We think that in almost all cases, the better are getting. We have a total of 15.
there were more than 15 cases that day. There were 60. And now there are 1.1 million. February 27th.
It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
February 28th.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. And this is their new hoax.
The very next day was the first confirmed U.S. death. Washington State declared a state of emergency. March 4th, he did an interview with Fox News where he suggested that it might be okay to go to work with the coronavirus.
We have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that get better just by, sitting around and even going to work. Some of them go to work, but they get better.
March 5th, California and Maryland declared states of emergency. March 6th, Kentucky and Utah declared states of emergency. He went to visit the CDC wearing a campaign hat and said,
Anybody right now and yesterday, anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the test.
It wasn't true then. In May, it's still not true. March 7th, New York declares a state of emergency and President Trump goes golfing. March 8th, he golfed again. March 9th, he compared coronavirus to the flu in a tweet and suggested it would go away on its own. March 10th.
It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away.
On March 11th, the World Health Organization said it was not just a global health emergency, it was a pandemic.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Only on March 13th does President Trump finally declare a national emergency. On March 16th, in a call with governors, he tells them,
respirators, ventilators, all of the equipment, try getting it yourselves.
On March 17th, he finally admitted this is a pandemic, and he told reporters,
I've always known this is a pandemic. I felt it was a pandemic long before it was called a pandemic. All you had to do is look at other countries.
This is only days after he was still comparing it to the flu. On March 26th, President Trump delivered on his America First promise in a way no one could have wanted, as the U.S. overtook the entire rest of the world in cases of coronavirus. As of the beginning of May, the U.S. has 1.1 million cases of the coronavirus and has suffered over 65,000 deaths. Analysis of data from the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation suggests that 90% of the U.S. deaths could have been prevented if the president had issued physical distancing guidelines even 2 weeks earlier, when he had already been warned of the threat for months.
With all of that, it's been an incredible period of time. We've done a fantastic job.
So that's your president. And that's us up to just a month or so ago. And a lot is still going on. A lot is misunderstood. Yeah. And due to the way that it's done in such a conflicting way, it lowers our ability to develop wisdom, to develop a plan of attack. Yeah. So imagine we come into this and we're in New York and we get the virus comes through Washington state first, and then that's one. And then it starts to grow and we find one in New York, and we find many, and it goes to thousands. And, you know, during that process, we're one over here and we're way over here, right? And there's very little communication because we're in a chaotic scenario. We do not have a pandemic system to focus on, a book to open and tell us what to do, because the president has chosen to say there is none. They didn't have one in the previous presidents. No presidents have ever done anything, according to him. No books, no strategies, no nothing has ever been laid out. He doesn't want to know them. He doesn't want to read them. He certainly doesn't want to read them. You know, so in our process, we're dealing with this chaos. We're dealing with a lack of ability to come to a diagnostic understanding, because we're in a state of chaos. If you're in medicine, I've been in medicine a lot. Much of my life has been focused upon medicine, and I was in surgical intensive care. I was in the emergency room. I worked in surgery. I worked on every level in the hospital. And when it came down to, I was during the Vietnam period, and all the people being flown in from Vietnam came to my hospital. So I was in charge of everybody. Yeah, surgical intensive care and the emergency room and surgery, so a lot, was learned in my process. And I learned that most of the doctors and most of the people really did not know how to communicate. They didn't know how to deal with the patient. They were in shock, and their way of dealing with it was triage. Now, if you look at this process and the way in which doctors are dealing with this and the way the nurses are dealing with it, and people come into the hospital, they're coping with it on the level called triage. Yeah, triage is when you're in shock. You have far too many people, and you first have to make an assessment as to just how close is this person to dying. We have 8 beds, we have 2 ventilators, and our diagnostic understanding is that we think we need ventilators. Yeah, we think we need to do it diagnostically and treat-wise in a certain methodology. And it's not true, because we don't know yet what the right methodology is to treat this. Yeah, but as time went on, we did find out. But that, again, has not been shared. It's not in the system. We're still in a chaotic scenario because our president keeps pushing people, let's get back out to work, let's not get back out to work. All these chaotic scenarios doesn't give us any time to focus on the patients. Yeah? They just come again in hordes. Right now, there are more people going into the hospital than ever before. Yeah? Texas is 200 times more than what New York was. And New York was really bad. But Texas is the biggest state we've got. And it is overwhelmed with this virus in the biggest state we got. Yeah? Just simply because our president could not do testing. He didn't know that there was a book on pandemics. He lied to everybody that there was a book on pandemics. He lied to everybody that there was already a group set up. All of this was pre-set up, and he threw it away. He fired the people. Yeah. He denied that any of the equipment was usable. Yeah. And then he gave the responsibility to all the individual states and cities to find their own mask, to find all their systems, everything they need. Find them personally. We're not going to help you. You find them. Yeah. And that put us into thinking, because the president said, oh, we're going to come up with tests, and we're going to choose tests, and you have to get your own tests. So that meant every single state began calling people who might have these tests, and 80% of them were not FDA tested. Yeah. They were in a non-tested scenario, and they just were boxes that came from China, said that they'll do this for you, but they were not correct. They had wrong outcomes. Yeah, either it's positive or negative or no real outcome to it. Yeah, because it just wasn't viable. It didn't. They were all set up wrong. Yeah, so this is like 20 different tests from 20 different companies, and there's one place that paid $500,000 because they would only sell 20,000 tests at a time. He paid $500,000 to save his state and dole it out in the counties and to everybody. And yet all of those tests didn't work. All of them. And he's not going to get back his money. And this is all due to our president. Our president pushing people into take responsibility over something that it is the federal government's responsibility. And it was set up that way. You have the CDC, you have WHO. He literally stopped paying money to CDC and keeping it from, this is years before this came, keeping it from having a foundation of income to do research in case there was a pandemic. You know, so every country, including China, was lower on their ability to take care of it because of Trump. Because of Trump. Yeah. And then he goes, oh, now I'm going to completely ban the WHO. We're not going to give any money to the WHO. And yet here in our government, they allow him to do this. This will destroy us and the world in relationship of developing scientific investigation. And then just a couple days ago, he redirected all information from all the hospitals out of the United States to no longer go to the CDC, which is where research is done. So we can better adequately, diagnostically deal with how it's mutating and what are the changes that we have to cope with, and being able to have certain ways of treatment. We have to collect these things. Now, who in Washington? Which one of the secretaries? Yeah? Which one of the administrators? Who is it? Vice President Pence? Is he the one that's going to take all that data? He's got all the time in the world to take all that data where a whole corporation of scientists were developed to get together and do this work. And they all set up. It's all set up that way. He literally redirects it away from them. And that puts us in a terrible scenario. One, we don't have the WHO anymore. We can't depend on them because he's cutting them off. And the CDC, he's making everybody think they're incompetent. And he's more competent. So he redirects that too. Yeah, just like throwing away the book on pandemics and lying to everybody that there was no book and there was no preparation whatsoever. Yeah. So he goes through that. He does that. And we are in this process. Yeah. So these aren't the only people in the world that's doing this. Yeah. I've been dealing with for a long time a lot of people in this world that are led by very dark forces, and they get into positions, and those positions ruin millions of people's lives. These are really bad outcomes. Yeah. And everybody has, a thought that, the Dalai Lama's a safe guy, the Pope's a safe guy. A lot of people out there that have millions of people under them following their direction. Yeah. And, what's the possibility that their lives are being ruined under this condition. Yeah. You know, what's the possibility? Well, let's look at the Dalai Lama for a minute. The Dalai Lama, since the early 90s, went nuts and started having past life processes over the fact that he, as a group, killed a Buddha during his 5th incarnation as Dalai Lama. He killed the man who was inaugurated as Dalai Lama. He kicked him off the throne when he was 11 years old. He took over the throne. And then later in life, when the two were about the same age, they were to graduate, he had the other guy, which is called Dorji Shungden, he had him murdered. Yeah? And all around the history of this, it's as though he had nothing to do with it. He never asked anybody to do anything, all of that. But yet, when it comes down to it, he personally is having really bad karmic crazies over the fact that he personally was the one who did it. Yeah? It doesn't work, you know, where, you know, something like this, you kill a Buddha, you kill a Jesus Christ, you kill someone like that, it's going to hang with you forever until you work it out. And you may blame other people, yeah, but it'll all come down to that person being judged in the end, and no one else will be judged for it. It'll come down to that person, and then that person has to repent, redeem themselves, and this is a very humble reality, you know, I'm asking people to step through, you know. So in the Dalai Lama's case, this happened. But he's a Buddhist, you know, you should expect it from him. But I was on this guy from the moment he opened his mouth on that, you know, and I went everywhere telling everybody he's wrong. And yet he destroyed millions of people's lives, had millions of people murdered from 1995 to last year. Had people murdered, had people slain, had people tortured, had people poisoned. Yeah. And this is how he started it.
On the 7th of January, the Dalai Lama delivered a speech that brooked no opposition in this Tibetan university in South India. In front of hundreds of monks, he condemned the Shugden movement and its practitioners.
These monks must be expelled from all monasteries without any hesitation. If they are not happy, you can tell them that the Dalai Lama himself asked that this be done, and it's very urgent.
A lot like Trump, yeah? When you're crazy like that and you take over control and you're a dictator, and yet everybody is looking at this guy like he's got the Nobel Peace Prize, you know, he's the Dalai Lama, he's a living Buddha. You know, how, you know, they don't even go, well, how is this possible? He must be right, you know? And yet he wasn't right. And as of January, he came forth and told everybody that he was wrong. Yeah, 100% wrong. And that there's nothing wrong with Dorji Chungden. There was nothing evil about Dorji Chungden. What was wrong was him. Yeah, and he committed enormous amount of misdirection in people's lives. Yeah, if you can look over the past of this, you'd see villages and schools of millions of people throughout Tibet, throughout Dharamsala, throughout India, throughout Nepal, wherever Tibetans lived, even America, wherever you lived, if any Tibetan found out that you were a Dorje Shungden practitioner, you would be beaten, harassed, fired. Your kids would immediately not be allowed to school, any public school whatsoever. You'd be forced out of the community and have to take shelter in a different form, not with Tibetans, but with Hindis or Nepalis or Chinese, but not Tibetans. Tibetans turned against Tibetans because of the Dalai Lama. Tibetans turned against Tibetans. Can you imagine that? So it was the most horrendous thing, because these are people who want to practice Buddhism, be harmless, but yet their teacher got them to not only burn themselves in effigy, but to kill their own fellow Tibetans. Yeah. And at the same time, the Chinese are like beating the shit out of him, making him feel bad, and he's making that happen too. Giving these delusionary lies that he wants to go back and be back in charge of Tibet again and all that. And he knows he doesn't want to do that. He has no interest whatsoever in any of that. Yeah. It's a totally different thing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been my problem. Yeah. And all of this is my problem. It doesn't matter who our president is, or who the Dalai Lama is, or who the Pope is. Yeah. You're not going to figure it out. I'm here to exercise them. Yeah. I've known who this guy is since I was a kid. I've been known everybody since I was a kid. And I've been very patiently dealing with everybody's words as they speak to me. I love Michael Jackson. I love the Pope. I love the Dalai Lama. And yet I'm the only person on earth going, you don't see. You just don't see. Yeah. And in the end, this guy, Michael Jackson's going to be a pedophile, a homosexual, and he's going to rape little boys. You don't see. Yeah. And this guy, the Pope, killed the Buddha. And you don't see it. Yeah. You don't even understand. You don't even know it's part of history. Yeah. Yeah. All these things people don't see, and they don't see Trump. Yeah. And there's reasons for it. Yeah. Because of this cult reality. It's the cult. It's lower psychicism. It's mediumship. It is in control of your lower mind. And it doesn't make you a bigot. It makes you stupid and ignorant and veiled and deluded. And you follow an illusion and you set yourself into an assumption. Yeah, everything is an assumption. Everything. There's no willingness inside the heart to verify truth. The solar plex just jumps to assumption. Yeah, where all you got to do is verify fact. Yeah, in anything you do, if you verify fact, it's like when you're driving or something. You know, you don't look at the phone, assuming you're not going to get into a car accident, you know. You don't go looking around, you know, like that, you know, assuming you're not going to get in a car accident. You don't look at the other person next to you and have a long conversation, assuming you're not going to get into a car accident. And if you do assume that, you get into a car accident. Yeah. That's the way it is all through life. But we spend most of our time assuming. And you know, it's the car that puts us back into place. Oh, I just almost hit that person. Oh, I just almost, you know, oh my God, you know. Got to watch out. Yeah, because I'm assuming too much. Yeah. And assuming is the way in which this thing moves forward. It's through chaos. Yeah, if in your lower mind you're going, oh, this is hard. Oh, this person makes me emotional. Oh, this person drives me crazy. Oh, this and that, you know. Then we have our emotional body reacting to what's going on. And that's happening because we're being hit by bullshit. You know, you don't know that Trump is doing what he's doing. You don't know the Dalai Lama is doing what he's doing. You don't know Michael Jackson's doing what he's doing. And millions of people following him. Millions of kids dressing just like him. You know, thousands of people are pedophiles simply because he's a pedophile. Yeah. You don't know how it works. Yeah. When you put someone up on a pedestal like that, you're taking all of yourself and putting that up on the pedestal, and it becomes all the impurities that are in that person. And then everybody, you can look at all the kids and actors and other people who got into the wake of pedophilia in the acting field, in the music area, you know. They all walked into that wake of being molested and being treated in that way. Yeah. And there was no way for them to deal with it or cope with it or understand what was going on. Yeah. And that's how it is right now. How we're dealing with this. This is the way in which it's coming about. Yeah. Because most of what we got going on has to do with psychic energy. We have no idea. So here's the Dalai Lama, yeah, and everybody's just going, he's like the best in the world, and the Pope is like the best in the world. And I'm showing you, the Pope is a Luciferian priest who prays to Lucifer and gains his power by identifying with himself as Lucifer. Yeah, and yet there's very little, if anything. I don't care if you're a Catholic or a bishop or anybody in that. Yeah, whether it's clicking or not is pretty questionable, because these aren't the stupidest people in the world. So you got to consider they know what's going on. They read they're pledging to Lucifer and they're accepting into it. And then you turn around and you wonder, how is it most of these priests are gay? They're lying to us. They're not only people who are going to give up sex and live an austere, sacred life, but these are perverts who have strong desires to have sex with little boys and carry it out in the church by the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of priests. It's not like, 1 out of 1,000 or 10,000. It's like 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 3. Yeah? It's a system. Yeah? And yet, what's it take for us as people to have a heart and fight, decrystallize this lie that is surrounding you and allows the devil to rule this place in the form of the Catholic Church or a president or anybody, and you don't have the ability to dispel your own glamours so that you could see through this the way I do and stand up and do something about it. Because you can't stand up and do anything about it unless you have a heart. And if you have a heart, your heart decrystallizes the lie, and it leaves you with the courage and the strength to understand and see the truth. And then you save people. But if you're not that, you're the other person. You're recruiting people to become a Catholic, to become a New Age person, to become a homosexual, even to the point of gender change as a child, to think that you are in a position in your life to see this little 1-year-old girl and have such delusionary qualities passing through you, you feel that this girl is actually a boy. And you need to dress it up as a boy and have it begin acting like a boy because you think you know better than this child being born as a girl. And this happens a lot, to the point to where we are so crazy in it that we let little children be moved by our aunt or our grandmother or even a babysitter to orient themselves in this way. And I could show you film after film of people who have changed their gender, and they all were recruited by family members at an early stage. Yeah? Yeah? And it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with their mom or their aunt or their grandma. Yeah? Or some pedophile father or uncle or cousin or brother. Somebody close. Yeah? That was able to get this person to swiftly change out of chaos. When you put them into chaos like that, and they're so young and immature, no way they can make a decision like that. And you start offering those decision-making processes to little children, you will end this world. Does that make sense? You'll create so much psychobabble that you can't get out of it. You can't come out of it. Yeah? because you're forcing the children to channel, and take steps in doing something so irreverently wrong that it will change their life, their whole life, and usually die in suicide. And yet you don't pay anything for it. These little children go on and live and die, and they carry out these perversions onto other people because they weren't healed. A lot of this has to be held in silence. Like all the little boys that got pedophilia, not one of them get respect because they're boys. They're boys. If you're a grown-up girl and you go into this process and guys rape you and molest you, or even a 13-year-old, you'll get everybody coming around, saying, "Oh, that's not right," women's rights, that's just the worst of all things, just the worst. But it's equal. The same thing is happening to both sexes. And there's no such thing to where, there's only one group of sex that is getting it worse than the other one. What you see in one is also happening in the other. Rape is happening in little boys. Beating up in the family is happening between men and their wives, and the men are losing. Even though the only thing you hear about is that men beat the shit out of their wives and the wives put up with it. But it's so bad you can't even get to hear about what happens to the women. Because it's covered up by a mass of many other disastrous scenarios that go on that you have to subtract it because you're taking a side. Bigotry. Does that make sense? Bigotry comes in every freaking form. It is the beginning of everything. You just have no idea that, we have an innate sense of bigotry. And we cannot help another person if we think one person is more deserving than another. You can't do that. It's not possible. It's against the law of nature. But that's not what we're in. We have lying popes, we have lying presidents, we have all these things that are creating chaos. And those things create an enormous amount of astral confusion in people. So here we are. We've got a pandemic situation, and we're trying to deal with how to deal with it best. And we're unaware that this thing is taking place in groups of people that we don't even consider. Like, how about pregnant women? Is the virus having any effect on pregnant women? Well, let's see.
The beginning of a sharp increase nationwide of moms with coronavirus giving birth.
There's actually some literature out there to support up to a 30% asymptomatic rate. So
30%?
that means 30% asymptomatic rate.
Of moms coming in?
Of moms coming in.
It's nowhere in the news. Nowhere. But yet it's a fact. There are a lot of moms out there, a lot of women who are pregnant, but it's not on the news. And if it isn't in a shared state, we won't know how to diagnose it. We won't know how to treat it. And it just gets covered up. And we're having deaths, we're having illnesses, but we're not in an open state. There's too much going on to cover things up. So we're not aware of this. And there's a lot of other things.
For all intents and purposes, we are now in the second wave. It's hard to say this isn't the second wave. We're now almost above the peak number of infections that we were at during the height of the epidemic in New York, the national epidemic at that time. So we're going to be contending with this for a long time at this point.
So the length of this is where everybody needs to have a clear place in their brain, yeah? That this is not a short-term virus. This is not the flu. It's not coming in seasons. It doesn't go away in the summertime because it gets hotter. It's not the flu. It's a virus that mutates, yeah? And as it mutates, it gets worse. It subjects people to the fact that it's much more susceptible for people to be able to receive it because it's mutated. Yeah. So now when it goes out, it's dealing with having been in a human body. So it goes through a mutation process. So within the next 5 or 6 months, when it comes out, it's a totally different virus than it was 6 months ago. So here we are treating it over here in this way in certain conditions and certain diagnostic understandings. But now we're 6 months down the road with a whole new virus. Yeah. And we're not taking this in consideration. Yet we're doctors. We have to take this in consideration. It's really important. I'm a super doctor, you know. I'm just one, you know. And all of us out here have to stand in a state of responsibility and not just be stuck in the hospitals looking down on dying patients and not have a support system from our government and from the rest of the nation, the people, yeah. You know, so it's a really difficult process for all the people who are in the hospitals, you know, because the numbers are going up. Yeah, and people, nurses, doctors who were in New York are going from there to go to other states in order to help out because their numbers are so high and they have the experience so they can help to better deal with this virus because it's mutating, it's changing the way in which it's coming in to human life, yeah. And we're in a process of thinking, you know, we're led by a delusionary chief that tells us that it's going to go away, just like the flu. It's just going to go away, probably be gone by summer, you know, and it's not going to happen. So how it really works is that this virus is a virus and it's highly contagious and it gets into the body, and anything that enters in and out from the lungs is the worst. It's the worst. Other things you can get on your hands, you can get the virus that way. You can get it through transmission through blood, you know, hepatitis, HIV, yeah. This isn't like that. This is a lot worse. All you got to do is breathe in the same area of someone within 6 to 8 feet, and you get the virus. And it's not about why you wear the mask to protect yourself from getting the virus as it is as much protecting someone else from getting the virus from you. Yeah, because if someone's got the virus and they're not wearing a mask, you only have a 25% chance of not getting the virus wearing a mask because it doesn't protect you from getting the virus. It protects you from giving the virus. Get it clear in your head, you know. It's really important to understand that that's the purpose of the mask, yeah? And you wear it in order to protect other people. You're in a world to where you don't know if you have the virus, and the virus is asymptomatic for 2 to 3 weeks. So you never know. Anytime you go to the store, anytime you go get gas, anytime you meet somebody, you now have 2 weeks before you really know whether or not you have symptoms of any kind. And yet, it gets in the body and it's growing. And within 24 hours, within less than 24 hours, every breath you take and goes out, it's going into other people and they're getting that virus. Without you knowing you're giving it, without them knowing you're sick. Yeah, this is how it gets spread. You know? So we really have to do all the cleaning and do all those things, yeah? But we have to get to a point to where we're treating this thing differently. We can't be treating it as a lung problem. Yeah, yeah. We need to see it for what it really is, and what it really is, it's an oxygen problem. It's a process. Let's see. I don't know if this is it's not the right one.
Methodist Hospital uses a procedure to oxygenate the blood and keep patients off ventilators. It's called ECMO, or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Today, Dr. Della Volpe is inserting large tubes in the veins of a 33-year-old. They run from the groin all the way to the heart. The blood comes out of the body, is mechanically oxygenated, then returned back to the heart almost immediately. The Methodist team have had a lot of practice, the procedure taking only a few minutes.
It involves being able to take large cannulas. They're almost like small garden hoses, is how I would describe them. They have to be able to pump about 2 or 3 gallons of blood per minute through them. So one is draining blood out and the other one is returning.
The blood coming out of the patient is dark. It just looks unhealthy. The blood returning is bright red, loaded with oxygen. Almost immediately, oxygen level in the patient's blood goes back to near normal. Their chance of survival now better than if they were on a ventilator.
I think the ventilator really causes a lot of harm, and we're finding that it causes harm in general, but it certainly causes harm when we're talking about patients with COVID.
Because their lungs are so weak to begin with?
Because their lungs are so weak, and because probably there's other reasons why patients are having trouble.
The ventilator's pushing oxygen into the lungs.
That's right.
Into damaged lungs.
That's right. So not only are you having all of the problems with the blood vessels and the clotting in your blood vessels, not only are you having all of the problems of oxygen not being able to get to your organs and your organs shutting down from that, but now you're artificially pushing air into your lungs and causing more damage that way.
Another.
Okay, so that's fact. That's fact, yeah? So that's one proper way of treatment under right diagnosis, yeah? The other one is that we have a relationship with the kidneys. They have to be in dialysis. We have to add oxygen to the blood in order to allow slowing down of the process of the destruction of all the organs in the brain. Because when you lose the oxygen, you lose oxygen to the cells. That means to the liver, to the intestines, to the lower limbs. Yeah. So that means clotting. When clotting begins to happen, you lose more circulation. And there are many people who are suffering from amputation, from a flu. You know, you really gotta focus. Yeah, that this is not a flu. You do not lose your legs from flu. You don't normally die from a flu. You know, Trump tells you that we have 100,000 people a year who have the flu, and not that many people die. Well, the truth is, that's not true. Yeah. The process of the flu, you don't know how many people are going to die. It depends on how well you take care of it. And you keep people from not subjecting it to other people. It's all these processes of preventing it from going any further and getting to the people who have already illnesses and weaknesses and processes in their system that would then make them die, because that's what people of the flu die from, is people who have already bad conditions, elderly or very weak conditions, yeah? So it's not uncommon for people to die, but it's more common for it to be prevented, yeah, and not die. You know, so it's not at all like this. We do not put people, all these things into people, these great big tubes in order to oxygenate. We do not do relationships to their kidneys, you know, all these things. We do not intubate the lungs and pull out liquid when the person can't breathe and all they're doing is gurgling up, you know, fluid from their lungs when they get into the hospital. And that's a fact. 80% of the people who come into the hospital are gurgling because their lungs are filled with fluid. So the doctor goes, oh, immediately get them in, you know, intubate. First, intubate, yeah? And give them oxygen and intubate. Keep giving them oxygen and intubate. And then the process of working on the kidneys and working on getting oxygen into the blood. And do not focus on making it any harder for the lungs, yeah? It's very important. All these things are things that lead people to dying. If you put a person with the entire oxygen process and control their lungs and put pressure on their lungs, if that starts on that person, they have an 80 to 90% chance of dying. Not recovering, but dying, because it's the wrong treatment. So it's really important that we get past this president, get past these wrong impressions, political impressions and all these things, and help us better understand from scientists and other doctors who are dealing with this in a proper way. Because this is a very destructive virus, very, very destructive virus. And it's affecting young people, 30 to 20, pretty commonly. Yeah? It's just that they're not the ones who are dying the most, but they're still in the hospital taking up beds close to dying. Yeah? It's not just elderly people. Yeah? So we need to really, 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 really do everything in every state, in every consideration, to use the mask, wear the gloves if you possibly can, keep yourself clean, and stay away from everybody. Yeah? If you're going to work in an environment where you're not next to other people. Yeah? Even in stores, they put up cages, so that the people working in the store does not get hit by the people coming into the store. Yeah? And yet people who follow Trump are people who, they won't put their mask on. They walk into a store and you got to drag them out. And they're kicking and screaming and hollering that they got freedom and right and everything. And they cannot be explained to the dangers they're putting into all the people in that store of not wearing a mask. Because the only way to protect someone is wear a mask. That's it. If you're going to go out, that's the only way you can protect someone. But you must wear a mask because you don't know if you have the virus. Everybody's got to wear a mask. Yeah, it's not a choice. It's mandatory as the heart, because it's not about you getting it. It's about you giving it. And you don't know if you have the symptoms of whether or not that's happening. Yeah. So that's the heart. It's the heart center, and that's what we're working on. And in this process of all that we're doing, a lot is going to change, a lot, jobs, circumstances. It's going to get really dramatic. We are in a process to where we're going through a second phase. We're now looking at a lot more people dying and 100% denial. Where before we're going, oh, look at all these people dying. Oh, this is really terrible. Oh, none of that's going on anymore. And a lot more people are dying, and a lot more people are sick. But because the president behaves the way he does, and we're going into choosing a president, then there's this whole cult movement of focus upon re-electing this president rather than taking care of this virus. So everybody's all about, whether it be politics or anybody, all about re-electing the president, keeping this, just the political aspect of things going, and not the relationship of us really dealing with it. Yeah. So there's if you imagine that here the Dalai Lama and got him to change, and he has dramatically changed. It's not going to be the same for him forever. He's being moved to be different, to awaken and be aware. And that same thing is going to happen to Trump. Whether or not he awakens in this life, and whether or not he makes changes in this life, I kind of doubt it. Yeah, but I see the process of what it is that elected him, and what made it possible for him to be in the office he's in, and that's what has to change. Is that influence of what brings this kind of stuff about? What brings about people to think that Michael Jackson is a certain way and not be able to see that he dresses like Hitler and that he's homosexual and that he's a pedophile. These are three different things. Yeah? Big things you should really consider. Oh, he dresses like Hitler. That's weird. Oh, he's a homosexual. That's questionable, but hey, we're all learning that maybe that's okay. But he also has sex with little boys. No, can't be right. So we have to deny It's a point of whether or not we can see and come to a point of understanding. And if we can't come to a point of understanding, then we have to deny. Yeah? Does that make sense? We have to. And it's not a willful thing. It's just that you cannot see and until you receive the Holy Spirit to change your perspective, to where you're willing to go, oh, I'm willing to go through the hardship of seeing him as Hitler and seeing him behave the way he does and see him with little children and see him go to court and it all unravel as the Holy Spirit is expressing it. Yeah? But the problem is that no one is really seeing the Holy Spirit express it. Instead, they're adopting to the evil spirit in order to cover it up and keep a relationship to Michael Jackson and let him out. Yeah. Where in the end, he died horribly. In the end, all the kids came out and said what he did. In the end, he went to hell, and he's in hell. He's going to remain in hell forever. So anybody who follows that direction is on the same direction. Yeah? And whether you end up in hell, he is. A lot of people are in hell right now and are coming out. And there's a whole lot of people on their way. And it's so important to get people to a place of understanding that these really evil people from the past who we think die and go away come back. And we must be diligent in looking to see if they reappear and realize that this shit really does go on. This is what real life is about. Yeah? If you want to have a good world, you have to look into what was Mother Teresa really like. Is she really a saint? Yeah? Or is she a person who believed in poverty and karma, and people who are in karma are impoverished, and that they are justified to be in that level and cannot be raised up? Study her. Study her. She was a bigot. One big ass bigot. Yeah? And that's a fact. If you study her. Then when she comes back, they don't come back like Mother Teresa. They don't come back looking like Hitler. They come back as a person. But they have to recapitulate all the evil that they were in their previous life because they haven't cleared it. And it's not anything, we can call her a saint, but if she's not a saint, she's going to come back for what she really is. Yeah? And carry it out easier in this life rather than hard in the last life. Yeah? So there's a lot of people that have gone through this life that we're unaware of in their relationship to what they're doing in this world to really mess this place up. Mess it up really bad. Yeah. So okay, I think that's going to be it. I'm going to talk about Trump for tonight, yeah? Because the main thing to understand is that this is a spiritual problem, and that lying is not a material thing. Lying is a spiritual thing, yeah? And it has an intention of covering up to allow bad things to happen, yeah? To continue on, yeah? And really bad things are happening. And little is being allowed to help it not be a bad outcome. Yeah. So when you study something like this and you take 350 million people in the United States, you take a virus that is this type of virus that comes through the lungs, goes out the lungs, can be caught, but can't be witnessed during the 2 to 3 week incubation period, that it still is viral and still can cause it to be put into other people and catch that virus. So that's a highly contagious, dangerous scenario called pandemic. It is not a flu, yeah? And when you got something like that, yeah, you have 350,000 people. On a scientific note, there's a certain percentage of people in such a large pandemic case that will get the virus. They will get the virus, yeah? And in this percentage, it's about 120 million people out of 350. 120 million people. Right now, we're at 2.8, maybe 3 million, yeah? And that's on planet Earth. Yeah, that's you know. But think of this. I mean, in the United States, we have 350 million people. Out of that, 120 million people will get the virus. And out of that, over 10 million people can die. 10 million people. On the low side, it's 2 million people if you really do something about it. If you really do something about it. Because there's this delusion to where you think it's the flu and it'll be gone in 3 to 6 months. It's just going to go away. That's a crazy delusion. They're not doctors. They don't know what's going on. It's a virus. It does not go away. It incubates in people and continues mutating and grows, and it fosters itself until you get a vaccine. Yeah? Until you have a way to knock it out. And we don't have a way to knock it out. So since we don't have a way to knock it out, it's going to continue going. And since it mutates, we can't give one particular vaccine to this virus. We have to follow the symptoms, give the vaccine accordingly, and keep making more vaccines because it mutates. And in order for us to really take care of this, we have to have many levels of vaccines to go through to find out what really is the one across the board that saves our ass. Yeah? And that could take nearly 5 years. 5 years. Imagine we investigate, we research, we do all the things we need to do. Within a year and a half, we come up with a virus. Yeah? We started off in 6 months. We have trials. Yeah? After that 6 months, we have tests that we're doing, you know, on people or rats or other things. We're beginning testing, yeah, to see how effective it is. And then a year and a half after that, we might come up with a particular one that we can use to try and calm it down. Yeah, that's 2 years. 2 years after the effect of the virus here. 2 years from now. Yeah. So 2 years from now, right now we've gone through just 6 months and we've had a major pandemic. One more 6 months, we're going to have another major pandemic. So it comes in layers. It just keeps going, keeps coming. Yeah, that's how it adds up to 120 million people getting the virus. It takes time. Yeah, if you don't do anything about it, you know, it will get us all. Yeah, and many, many people will die unless we can actually test it and slow it down and let ourselves go through the 3 to 5 year period it takes to get a vaccine and not kill too many people in between that time. And the way that we're doing it now, we will kill around 2 to 5 million people guaranteed. And over 100 to 120 million people will get the virus and suffer from it as a sickness. They won't die from it. But over 20 million to 10 to 20 million people could. Yeah? And we should keep it down below 2 million. And that's really high because it is the virus it is. And it's going to get high. Yeah? Yeah? So the only way it could be actually lowered is if we follow through on testing and don't believe that all the tests work, because come to find out none of them did. Yeah? You know, so you can't really go by that. You have to go by not spreading it, not getting into situations to where you spread it. Change your job situation and your condition so that you're not in a spreading condition. Yeah? And then see how it works. See, if you don't get the virus after a month or two, you know, then you've done a good job. You know? But unless we do it this way and have controlled scenarios into it, We're just going to keep going right back out there, going off to the beach, going back into bars, going back into restaurants. Everybody gets sick again, and we keep going up and down this viral process of people getting sick, and nothing comes good out of it. It's just like we get another New York, and now we get Texas, and then we get California, and now we're getting Arizona, and now we get Nevada, and now we open up all the casinos, and now all Nevada is all locked down, everybody's sick, and now everybody left Nevada, went back home, and now they're sick again. We're just going to do this shit. We're just going to do it, you know? I don't know how many Indian casinos are open. I really hope not one, you know, because they're not under the control of the state. You know, they don't have to. You know, I'm just hoping they do close down completely on their own understanding. Yeah. But this is how we have to deal with it. It's not the way it's being dealt with. Yeah. So my thing is that I see us ending our relationship to President Trump, and that he won't be president as of January. He will not be in the office. He will be gone. Yeah. He'll be off golfing and doing things and raping little kids. He'll just be doing what he does. Yeah. He'll be back in his old thing. That's fine. But we'll have a president in the office. And we'll have other people gathered into the office, and they're going to begin taking charge of this thing. And the CDC will get back their support, and the WHO will get back their support, and we'll start communicating with China, sending people into China, and not declaring that they are the cause of this pandemic, because they are not. No more than Italy is the cause, no more than New York is the cause, no more than Washington is the cause. It is the virus. Yeah. And we have to start making good relationships with all the countries so we can go in and help support the healing of this thing on a worldwide pandemic. Because if we don't, it's going to come back into the United States, start all over again in the same way it started. Yeah. So we have to deal with this correctly. We can't be going and stopping all negotiations and stop paying of all this and get everybody all angry and put tariffs on everything right in the middle of a virus. The only outcome that can come from that is a major third world war. And that's my next class on Monday. I will show you the process of President Trump, China, and Russia all gathering together, putting bases and military might into focus for an outcome of a nuclear aggression, a Cold War. Yeah, and we're right in the middle of it. Yeah, just 2 days ago, there was already a process where they were fighting and shooting at each other, and yet it's not really much on the news. And China and India went to war, but that's not much on the news. Yeah, and the same thing is happening in Turkey right now and in the Philippines, but it's not much on the news. Well, I'm going to bring it to your attention so you know more about what's really going on, because it's those things that are affecting our astral body. It keeps it moving, that sends out our energy into this illusion of not knowing these things are going on. And if you know that they're going on, if you at least know that they're going on, and you have some kind of light inside your consciousness, you can help me overthrow this thing. Yeah? But it really takes your focus, your attention. You know, there's a lot of education to go on in this. I'm a doctor of all forms of being a doctor. Yeah, so I recommend everybody to follow that direction. Don't be an assuming person. Don't think that you do not have to be a doctor and be intelligent and capable and study at an extreme rate in order to save your ass, because we're in a very high state of possible mind change. Yeah. And we can alter this whole entire thing if we just raise our consciousness to the outside environment of what's really going on. Right now, because we have coronavirus, we're all stuck in the same picture of seeing the outside environment and how it's affecting us. And it's all the same picture. So that's different than any other time. Yeah. So this is an opportunity for us to really come to grips with this as an option for us to do meritorious things to change what might be the cause of what's bringing this onto the world. And if we do it right, we might be able to affect the nations to not become crazier like North Korea or China or Russia or any other place that is focusing on nuclear war right now. Now, last thing we need is a Holocaust. You think a coronavirus is bad. You have no idea what it's like to not go outside for 2,900 years. Not to take a body for over 10,000 years. You have no idea what that's like. And what it's like for you to come back into your reincarnation in your mutated body that is disfigured and stupid and smaller than it ever was before. Yeah? Because you have no gene code. It was wiped away in the nuclear war. You don't carry your mom's genes, your dad's. You carry only mutated genes that are radiated by nuclear war, and an enormous rent throughout your process of not being on the earth for up to 10,000 years. Just living in this mutated, disfigured being, for long periods of time. And we don't just go away. We don't evaporate, If we have to, we become the bug. If we have to, we become the rat. If they have to, we become the very crazy-ass animal that's living off of foraging in a nuclear war. Or a human being that's doing the same thing amongst the same. That would be our life. No, I mean, this is the easy one to come out of. We could fix this. But we have to take full responsibility for what's going on in everything. 100%. We have to take full responsibility. You got to look and see whether or not is there any videos that show that there are ghosts and hobgoblins walking on Earth? Because are you ignorant that there aren't? When there are, they're right in your bedroom. They hang out behind your chair. All over the place. All over the place. But yet you don't look. It's not like you look behind your chair to see if it's there. You have to look and see if scientists or anybody else has come up with this information. I spent 4 years in experimental psychology investigating paranormal reality. Willing to go into places where there were ghosts and poltergeist and demonic activity and talk to priests who exorcised people and study things that no one wanted to talk about. But while I was doing that, out comes movies like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist and very things that I'm studying. Everything I studied, everything, including Twin Peaks, the movie Twin Peaks, I was in the middle of the very same scenario, but yet it comes out in a movie. So there isn't anything that I'm not externalizing as an educational metaphor in relationship to dealing with this insanely crazy world. Twin Peaks is not a joke. It's very serious. The end person ended up possessed. Every person in Twin Peaks became demonically possessed. Every person in Lost went to hell. And did you catch that while you were watching it? That they were all in hell? I did. The moment the first show came on, I said, yep, they're in hell. They all died. And they woke up in hell. And demons were appearing and all kinds of things were happening in the show, but no one gets it. Everybody just keeps seeing it. But yet every single show, every single episode showed examples of them not being alive, that they were dead and in another place. All these shows, from Heroes to everything, is all a part of things that I'm involved in uncovering and bringing the enormous amount of manipulation inside the Dark Lodge, including time travel, opening doors to, hobgoblins and ghouls and demons and forces that you cannot see, but yet they do exist. They push you around. They cause car accidents. I can show you video after video after video of cars that have head-on accidents with no car. They just in the middle of nowhere. Yeah? Cars, trucks that are blown off the road with no wind. They're picked up, flipped over, and dropped on the ground. Yeah? How did that happen? Yeah? How does a car get hit from the side when no object comes from the side and hits it and causes the whole side of the car to be crushed and it flip over? But yet there was no one on the road except for that car. Yeah? There's a lot, and these street cameras catch this crap. Yeah? So if you look it up, you'll find that this is not the world you think you're in. You're just assuming that this world is okie dokie by your standards, yeah? But everybody else is suffering. Yeah? They're suffering. There's car accidents happening. Is there such a thing as an accident? Yeah? Not really. Yeah? Everything has to do with things that have to do with bump in the night. And it's more to do with reality than it is unreality. And yet we think it's unreality, and this is reality. And yet we're all suffering. Yeah? And it is a really serious, incredibly serious thing. Yeah? So just warn anybody, if they're planning on doing Ouija board, if they're planning on practicing astrology, if they want to know what another astrology sign is, do your best to be aware of the fact that that's that person's problem. And yours is that you want to look up things that you do not understand. You don't know that they exist. Yeah? Yeah. Look up, go online and go, people who lived 50 million years ago. Yeah? And you'll get a whole list of people that lived 50 million years ago. And you'll get a whole bunch of objects that are found, artifacts that are found. Dolls, airplanes, yeah, shoes, yeah, hammers, yeah, objects that are like computers, yeah, found inside rock, yeah, animals found inside rock, been in that rock for thousands of years, and you open the rock up and that, what is that? You go, whoa, what is that? That's a horny toad. Wow, that's weird. And you look at it a little more, and all of a sudden its leg moves. Yeah, and it shakes its head, wiggles his feet. And this 1,000-year-old rock has got a live animal in it. Yeah, that's like hibernating. Yeah, these are real realities. Yeah, we have no idea any of this goes on inside of our world. Yeah, so we have to open up to areas that are real, yeah, that takes us outside, like outer limits, twilight zones, all kinds of things were designed by me in order to usher people into the real world rather than the one you're in that you bring with you, and you have no idea what really is going on. What is the outcome of, what happened to Hitler? Where'd he go? Did we all just evaporate into nothingness? Yeah? Or does he return? Yeah? Without looking into any of that, it's really difficult for us to come to the next grip. Yeah? Because there's a process, and a process of lower nature. It's a process of controlling this brow center. Yeah? And the brow center is held by pretty high initiates. Yeah? But they're deluded. They're deluded. They don't take the Lord for real reality. And yet they're pretty spiritual beings. Yeah? They're demigods, and they're initiates, and they're fairly well understood people on the higher level, like the Dalai Lama, or many, many, many other people that really tried hard to become brilliant, like Einstein or other people. That really tried hard. Yeah? But they still were veiled. Yeah? You can look into the greatest of teachings. Brahma and Vishnu are sitting together, and they're not complementing each other, they're competing with each other. And one is, I'm higher than you. No, I'm higher than you. I'm greater than you. No, I'm greater than you. Well, it's obvious I'm greater than you. No, no, no. Yeah, and then a point of light appears that goes from infinity to infinity. And they're going, what the shit's that? Yeah. And they can't really understand it. You know, because they are chaos. You are chaos. If you have this bigotry, you're just like a demigod. Yeah, to me. Yeah. It's no different. I've got to fix it all the way to gods, all the way to humanity, because it's all the same. Yeah, everybody's a demigod. Yeah, they all think they have their view. Yeah, and that's the view they have to have. And they don't need another view. That's their view. But it's not true. In the heart, the view is transmitted. That's the story about Brahma and Vishnu. Shiva pops up with light and goes infinity, you know. But then that infinity comes back in and they infuse into it. They become part of it and they become enlightened from that. Yeah. But they had to become one. They couldn't be separate anymore. Couldn't be separate Shiva, couldn't be separate Brahma, couldn't be separate Vishnu. Yeah. And then Avatar came, and then incarnations of that Avatar. And the Avatar is a manifestation of all three aspects. There's never a manifestation of separate aspects. It's always all three. So when one comes, we go, oh, that's an incarnation of Shiva. Oh, wow, that seems more like an incarnation of Brahma. Whoa, that seems like an incarnation of Vishnu. Or in reality, the Avatar is always an incarnation of all three aspects. But in the mind of humanity, we're still at war in the process of these other two demigods. Yeah? The lower mind and the higher mind. Yeah? And not the heart. Yeah? It's the center point of the heart where everything comes from, everything comes into, and everything gets to see the truth. Yeah? There's no chaos. It's middle way. Yeah? Everything comes through that middle way. Yeah? You know, so it's the same with everybody in world. Yeah? It's the same of healing. Yeah? And all the things I talk about is to help to orchestrate elements, to get elements to move, because your demigod state is controlling the elements. Yeah? And I don't control elements. Yeah? I free elements. Yeah? I allow them freedom because I give them no chaos. I don't stand in a knowing place. Yeah? You stand in a knowing place through your assumption. Yeah? And then it's really hard to get past that wall, you know, like when I talk or explain something, it's hard to get past that wall to get that to be understood fully and then carried out. Yeah? Because there's many levels of assumption, you know, that go on. And that's the way it is in everywhere, in everything. Yeah? So I talk and teach what's known as dharma teaching. Yeah? Yeah? It's a darshan kind of thing, but it's mainly to illustrate an opening of a view. Yeah? Everything I'm talking about is a view. Yeah? So that view brings elements into a concentrated way of seeing things, which becomes monadic. Rather than your personality or your lower mind or your higher mind. Yeah? This is even greater. Yeah? It's the monad. Yeah? So the monad expresses through your soul, and you can't cooperate until I can get the demigods to stop lying to you. Yeah? Because that's where all the problems lie. Yeah? The Pope, the Dalai Lama, these people think they're demigods. They think they're gods. Pope thinks he's God. Dalai Lama thinks he's an incarnated Buddha, but he's an asshole. How do you get to be an asshole and an incarnated Buddha at the same time? It doesn't work. Yeah? So something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Yeah? Yeah? And it's in that influence of these demigods that are out there, and they're all over the place. Sai Baba, so many of them are all over the place, but they control your minds. Because you're the initiate, and the initiate is controlled by the demigods. Yeah? Yeah? So it's a matter of me helping to say things, to illustrate things that have to do with our world as it exists. Because you don't give a shit. I mean, not that you don't give a shit. It's just that you can't make a change in it. You can only produce it. Yeah? If there's going to be a Holocaust tomorrow, you're involved in the process of making it happen, not in the process of not making it happen. Yeah? One is goodwill in action, and the other one is assumption. An assumption is the consistent going on of evil in action. And you just can't see it, and therefore you don't even know you're supporting it. Yeah? So it's a lack of that conscious action, that monadic energy that passes into people that allows these elements to come into form, yeah, to turn into virtues or turn into characteristics and turn into outcomes. And this outcome could be a really horrendous one. We've already got a coronavirus, but what would happen if we had just one nuclear bomb go off? Just one. Yeah, whether it be Pakistan. A nuclear bomb today is 150 times bigger than Nagasaki. Yeah? So, let's say one blows up in San Francisco. That's the closest place that Korea can hit, is San Francisco. Yeah? The California region. It can go to Hawaii, but they have 3 nuclear warheads that are on a missile that goes long, intercontinental, and could hit California. Yeah? So if one of those hit here, the devastating mushroom effect that would come from that to thousands of miles within less than 5 minutes are wiped away in a circle. In a circle. And, California is only about 300 miles wide. So we're talking Arizona, Nevada, California, Washington, Oregon, and part of Mexico. One bomb. One bomb. So we cannot look back and assume nuclear war is the same as the nuclear war you have here in your Brown Center. You got to get it right. That way you can express out your true anxiety over the loss of a world from one nuclear bomb. Because if one nuclear bomb comes down, 9 more will leave the United States and hit strategic targets that have to do with wherever that nuclear bomb came from. Yeah? And if they come to us in 3 different directions, Pakistan, yeah, Russia and China, we've got an all-out nuclear war. Yeah? So those are the things, we are in process of overthrowing. It's not just a coronavirus. It's about cooperation. Can you develop goodwill in action? Can you get to a point to where your conscious energy is understanding what I'm saying so that then radiates out as an intention? Like it's important that people understand, not that, I assume they will. Well, you're the person who's bringing about a nuclear war. We need someone who can stand up and be afraid. Yeah? Be nervous. Do not be content. Yeah? Because it's that contentment that lulls the process of your emotional body to not put out the light that it takes to change this thing. It takes an enormous amount of understanding and clarity and focus in order to bring about a change going from the solar plex where people are just following this cult, many hundreds of cults all around the world, yeah, where they should be their 6th ray going up to their heart, and it's bringing that 5th ray down to their sacral center, and it is studying everything, scaring the crap out of them. But that scared process keeps them from being in an assumed happy place of thinking this thing's okay. People are okay. Because if you can't feel the reality that 4,000 people are suffering right now, they can't breathe, all throughout the United States, they can't breathe tonight. And by tomorrow morning, they're going to be dead. And another 1,500 people will start into that hospital, be on respiration, and start to die. And they will die at a rate of about $2,000 to $3,000 by the end of the 3,000 people by the end of the week. Yeah, these are your conscious thoughts. They have to be in that area. Yeah. Then you need to know, Christmas, we're not sending troops out. We're sending tens of thousands of troops out every day today, and have been doing it for the last 5 days. Yeah, that's big. We should know this. If you don't know this, something's keeping you from it. But yet it's there. All you got to do is look. But maybe you have no interest in the military. Maybe you have no interest in certain things. Medicine, politics, military, ghosts, demons, poltergeists. You better start getting interest. Yeah. They better be your interest, not a negative thing. Not like, oh my God, this is happening. Yeah. Just so you can at least be raised up to my consciousness, so that it's not something new, you know. It should be news that you're relevant today. You can see it today. You can witness it today. And that becomes an increased spirit going out as a collective consciousness that is a way shower. Yeah? It sends light to people that can't see it. And that redirects people into going, well, I think maybe I should look on the military channel and see what's going on here. Maybe I should look up on Google and see what's going on. Maybe I should look up Google and see what's going on there. I have another class coming up that I'm going to give to everybody in relationship to Google and the CIA and what its true origin is and how it really does work. And it's not Google at all. It's not Google at all. That's just a byproduct. Yeah. It's really a national security system, and it's necessary. Yeah. And don't let anybody make you think that Google's out to get you, or it's part of some kind of process to take our secure information and sell it or this or that. They are so busy, actively busy, trying to keep threats of nuclear war from happening on this planet with the FBI and the CIA and international securities. You know, everybody gets their security through Amazon and Google. Yeah, and it's not like they buy from Amazon, but Amazon has a cloud that developed a relationship of being able to put large communication networks into that cloud and have it function without them having to buy billions of dollars worth of equipment and develop this cloud on their own and not function. So between Google and Amazon, we have security. Yeah, but you don't know this stuff. You know, so you can be led by the dark side to think, well, you know, they're trying to take over the world, you know, they're all this conspiracy crap, when in reality, it's a bigger picture, it's a busy picture, and it's oriented toward giving us better understanding of what's going on in the world so we can block manipulation and certain things that are causing wars to happen. And, you know, there are influences that we've seen in Facebook to where we can manipulate people's behavior by saying bullshit like the president does. And that gets people to riot and come out and say Black Lives Matter and this and tear down buildings. And that all is done by Twitter, by the president. Yeah, you know, so this is a system that's set up to help not eradicate that, but help us not have that, so that we could do something about people who are putting in false information on Twitter or Google, and it's immediately found and not allowed to go out. Yeah? And this isn't a way of controlling information. It's a way of keeping cults from dominating human behavior. Yeah? Okay. So that's it. Let's do a puja. Okay. All right. Just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. to clarify and stimulate my mind, to transform and transmute my feelings and emotions, to energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body, so there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so just a point. There's people are focused on fanaticism, whether it be football, baseball, a church, or a political, and any kind of belief system they hold. They get this fanatic process going on, and they're unaware, the dangers that they're in at all. You go into a Catholic church, you don't know that pedophilia is their program, and you don't know that homosexuality is their law, and you think it's everything, a totally different thing. You really do, and you have all the right in the world to think it because you're told those things, and they're not true, and they actually take you to paganism, and you have no idea that you're following a pagan cult, and they won't allow you to understand the end of the Bible, where it tells you the harlot, the pagan cult, and everything is going to manifest at the time of the coming of the Christ throughout this period. So there wouldn't be a church on earth. In the Bible it said there wouldn't be a church on earth. There would be the harlot. There wouldn't be a church on earth. There would be the coming of Christ, but there wouldn't be a church on earth. There would all be false prophets. According to the Bible, that's what it says. There'll be claims, there'll be false prophets, there'll be healers, there'll be evangelists, there'll be all kinds of things. But there will not be a church on earth. It'll be the harlot, and it'll be a beast that will manifest control over governments and economy and the nations. And that's where we're at. We're in that, and everybody has been inducted into it. And whether you're a witch or you're a warlock or you're a Christian, you're in the same church. You can be a Buddhist and you're in the same church. You're just a bigot. And you have no idea that your choice of choosing this life, this lifestyle, is because you're a bigot. And you need to find your hole and join your hole, and let everybody else be in their hole. Because you're a Muslim and this one's a Catholic and this one, they all got their holes. And none of them are out in the open looking at anybody without being a bigot. Every single church is based on bigotry. 100%. And whether it be the Dalai Lama and Buddhism, well, they don't believe in Jesus Christ. They're bigots. In Hinduism, they don't believe in human rights. They're bigots. It's all throughout their history. They were trained to be bigots, accepted bigotry, and it just went on and on and on. So in order to get that out, I gave my pujas. And what they do is that they give you the description of the Lord. The description of the Lord. It describes the Lord's actions, the Lord's duties, the Lord in every way. And the one that I'm going to do now is I take a body. And that one, if you listen to it, don't get into your ego and think, oh, I take a body, you take a body. You know, sure, you take a body, yeah, but I'm talking about the Lord taking a body. And this is all about the Lord taking a body and what it means when the Lord takes a body. How does the Lord take a body? He manifests it. Yeah? He manifests it. And he accepts the nature of what happens in the process of that manifestation. And that's all in this invocation, this evocation, this teaching. Yeah, so when you listen to this, it's part of like getting out of the church and stepping into the Lord's teaching. Yeah, yeah, which is like a darshan. Now, when the Lord is on earth, the Lord begins the process, eliminates the false prophets, closes down the church, and begins the teaching, which is to turn the wheel of dharma. Yeah, and no one has got the wheel of dharma. Everybody's in this pride state, thinking, "Oh yeah, I got it. I'm, it's all happy to me, and it's not. There are children suffering right now, and that's where the Lord's coming from. The Lord's coming from wanting to defend those who are suffering. Because the people who don't care are the ones making them suffer, because they're not giving them the light that it takes for them to get out of suffering simply because you care. If you assume they're not there, well, then who's giving them light? Nobody. And this coronavirus is the worst, because all their family is kept away. Yeah, all their relatives is kept away. Yeah. They're suffering and suffocating and dying every moment, and every fear you can possibly come up with. Yeah. And they have to do it alone, with people with masks over their face that they can't talk to or do anything. Yeah. And this is real. This is what's going on. I mean, I've been through the Vietnam War. I've been through all these things of suffering. Yeah. I was in charge of burn unit. Nobody would walk into that. I would, because I was in the middle. I could be in the middle way. I could care deeply for this person. Therefore, I could do something about it, because the other people who walked in there cared more about their own emotions. Yeah. More about their crying, more about their feelings. It's too hard for me to go in there. Well, that means you simply don't care. Yeah? It just simply isn't there. And if you do not see this horrible thing. You see need. Yeah? And you work hard to fulfill the need. And you get visions of what it would take to make this person a healthier, better, happier person 24 hours a day. You get visions like that. That's what happens. But if you don't have that, if you walk in there with fear, and you just go, oh, I want somebody else to do this. I'm going to do this just for a little while, and I'm only going to do only what they asked me to do. I'm not going to go beyond that. Yeah, we all have to go beyond that. Yeah, we all have to go beyond it. Yeah, and we can't take it in a negative way, like it's, oh, this is terrible, or oh, this is hard. You're just raising yourself up a little bit closer to what I'm looking at 24 hours a day. And you would think Jesus is looking at lilies of the field and flowers and everything, and I do. But I still experience the death and the suffering of every living person on the planet. And I could see the birds and the flowers at the same time. You got to be in the middle way. Yeah? Or you won't make a difference. So listen to this puja and you'll have a better understanding. Get rid of your Bible belief systems, and come to a grip that this is what the Lord's like. Yeah? And if you listen to it closely, you'll be able to put faith into this being as the one that ushers in the light that allows to raise you up and give you the ability to care. Yeah? So let's do this. Just close your eyes and relax. That body is alive. I know its life. I therefore know my mother. I use a body. That body is not me. I serve the group, and in this serving live within the body, detached, a son of God. I know myself. I infuse a body. Quality is love. I am the life of God Himself. The Mother, Father, Son am I. Behind these three stands the unknown God. That God am I. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men and women, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, we call the race of mankind. Let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. 7, the colors of the manifesting one. 7-fold, the work. 7, the energies. And 7-fold, the path back to the center of peace. Let the disciple live in love and love in life. Okay, just relax. Righty, open your eyes. So it's necessary for you to come to grips with the Bible. Yeah. And if you read the Bible, it's about the coming of Christ. Yeah. It's not, and nowhere in the Bible does it say the coming of the Catholic Church and the making of a Catholic Church or anything to do with the Catholic Church is not in the Bible. It's not there. Not in the Bible where Muslims are there. It's not in the Bible. Yeah. It's not in the Bible that Buddhism even exists. It's just not in the Bible. Yeah. But it is in the Bible about the reality of the ancient lineage of the Avatar. And that it goes back in ancient times, Sumerian times, Hindi times, ancient times, includes the pyramids, includes dinosaurs. It's quite a book. Yeah, it's profound, it's true. Yeah, but it's longer and bigger than what you think. Yeah, it's not 10,000 years old, beginning of all creation. It's not that. Yeah, it's different. It's misunderstood. It's misunderstood by these false prophets, by these false churches. Yeah, that has declared a whole lot of things. And they're all in the Bible when it comes down to watch out for false prophets and those who claim to know when the Christ is coming. Well, that would be the Catholic Church. They're like, if he's coming through our door, then we'll introduce you. But he's coming directly to us. Yeah. And that's not it. And no other church claims that, that he's just going to appear and he's going to be the beginning of God on earth. And nothing happens before that. It is exactly as it says in the Bible. It's a time of evil when people are affected by it, infected by it, dying because of it. All the way through the beginning of the Bible to now. It's what it's about. And it's not about 12 disciples, because those 12 disciples turned their back on Jesus Christ and walked away. And he walked away and had nothing to do with him after that, even though they claim, those are false prophets. And they died like a false prophet. They suffered their life like a false prophet. If they had followed the truth in the beginning and not done what they did all the time, if you read the Bible and watched how, look, it says right in there, how did they treat Jesus? Did they trust him? Did they believe in him? When he wasn't in their midst, did they speak positive of him? Declare him as the holiest of holies? All these things that they should have learned, and when he was gone, they should have brought up and revered those things and held those things. Yeah. That whole process is something that didn't happen. And it's right there in the Bible, all the way to Judas. Yeah. And then it claims more and more things, Peter the rock and this and that and all these things, only to lay claim to them as false prophets and create a false church. Yeah. And don't you think that church would be in Jerusalem if it was a Church of Christ? Don't you think it'd be in the same location that he taught? The same location that he died? The same location that he was born? Yeah. I mean, in the Bible it says he does. In the Bible it says he walks back in there and restores the church. The history, the lineage, of who he was before and who he is now. And it's all a lie up until the moment he does that. Yeah. Everybody's under this curse. It's a curse. No one's at fault. That's why you can't be a bigot. Yeah. it's just the root system of the curse. You know, you're just being a voice, you know, for the hate. You know, and it's not what this is about. We are cursed. People are cursed. You know, and it is a very vile, false claim of illusion and delusion and collusion. Yeah, on every level, whether it be the Pope or the Dalai Lama, or, you know, all these different people that run all these churches. Yeah, these evangelists who put Trump into office. Yeah, he's in office simply because of a church. A bunch of church people believes that he is a prophet that is meant to fulfill a prophecy. False prophets. And they usher in the satanic rights, the rights of Satan to rule. Just like having a pope, the right of Satan to rule. Just like having a Dalai Lama, the rights of Satan to rule. If I'm in that place, there's no ruling that goes on. I understand and I see everybody and I remember everybody, and it's just, you know, it all just comes to one. You know, we're all a family. There's no bigotry. There's nothing. Yeah. But no one could figure out what's going on. Jesus is not from Rome, is not a Roman, nor is his church in Rome. Yeah. And the Dalai Lama is not in charge of Buddhism. Yeah. He is a person who took over Tibet. Yeah. And ruled it. And claimed himself to be the Dalai Lama. Yeah. So that's all in the Bible. All of it's in the Bible. So we're in the process of the coming of Christ. Not in the process of Christ being here. We're in the process of coming of Christ. And the only thing true prophets can talk about is that they're not a prophet, that they do not know anything, yeah, and that there is the coming of the Lord because there are signs, and that they themselves are waking up, that they're not the same asshole they were 10 years ago, that the Lord is on earth only by knowing the Lord is on earth because they are changing from being an asshole to a better person. And that's the only thing that makes them realize the Lord is on earth, is that they're an asshole. Yeah. And that they have to stop being an asshole so children could live. Yeah. So women can stop abusing boys and girls. So men can stop abusing boys and girls. Yeah. So this world could start living rather than existing. Yeah. So it's really important to hold the light of the only Christ there is. There is no church on earth. None. Yeah. It's not the way you think. Yeah. It's in the Bible, it states. All of this gets rectified by the revelation that Christ brings. And this is the revelation. Yeah. Just look around you. It's all about false prophecy. You do not know. You only assume you know. And I could prove to you you don't know, and that you're leading to danger. Yeah, no matter what it is, little things, big things, the outcome is bad karma. And none of us need bad karma. You need to wise up and use your intuition, your telepathy, and tap in to the incarnation of the Lord, because this is all about the coming of the Lord. And the Lord has come. So to get that process and to overthrow the false prophets, you have to be awakened to the reality that you're changing. That you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. And if you are, you're not changing. You're not accepting the Lord in the process of the Lord. Yeah. So the more that faith actually comes in, and you're not sitting in worry and anxiety and all that, that blocks your receptivity to the Lord and keeps you in that same ridiculous personality. Yeah. Yeah. And that's all the same personality the Pope's got. Yeah. Same personality, the Dalai Lama's got. Yeah, it's by you getting rid and relaxing and finding your truth over the fact that I have to change. Yeah, that I have to see my negativity, my nervousness, my anxiety, my fear as harming children. Yeah, that's the only thing, because that's the only truth that exists. You're harming the incoming incarnation. The spirit of the Holy Spirit is to affect the incarnating incarnation and then further it throughout life. So the process of humanity is that they affect the beginning incarnation aspect in their day-to-day disloyalty to the Lord. They're not willing to change because the Lord makes people change. The Lord creates evolution, creates initiation. We all should be on a ladder to where we change so dramatically every 10 years because we're taking an initiation. But what if you're not? What does that mean? That means that we have an apocalypse coming, and we have this paradigm of one disease after another that keeps fixing itself, whether it be this disease or whether it be HIV or, hepatitis or whatever it takes to slow you down, to keep you from having those behaviors. Because if you have those behaviors, you're going to get those diseases. People are so stupid today that they go out and have relationships with people they've never known during the middle of a virus. And somehow they think God is protecting them. And God's not protecting them. God is giving them a rope. And they're hanging themselves. Does that make sense? Those people will find themselves in the hospital, and at worse, they're going to find their loved ones in the hospital. People who are a little sicker than them, and they're just passing it on because they're the only person making themselves available to people who can carry the virus, or HIV, or hepatitis, or some other disease that is communicable between people. If you're that kind of person, stop, for God's sake. Yeah? Because this will affect the children. It'll affect the people you love, even if you don't love at all. You just kind of fit in and like people, kind of, but don't love. You won't make these changes unless you learn to love. Then you have conscience and you have caring, and you look at the person next to you and you go, oh my God, what I just did could be making you sick. It's a beginning of a conscious process of trying to help people wake up to knowing that we are spreading whatever anybody's got. We're spreading it. Yeah? All right. So that's it. Enjoy. Please. Be at peace.